We are live, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good evening. The meeting of the City Council will come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those participating via Zoom, when we get to the item that you want to speak on, please use the raise your hand feature and the city clerk will turn on your microphone to speak at the appropriate time. Let the record show that all council members are present with the exception of Vice Mayor Susie Collazo. Would Carlos Torres please join me at the podium? Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our newest employees, Carlos Torres. Carlos was hired as a police officer on May 1, 2023, after graduating from the South Bay Regional Public Safety Training Academy Class 171 on April 28, 2023. Officer Torres graduated from Westminster High School in Southern California. After high school, Officer Torres studied psychology at Cal State University East Bay. In his spare time, Officer Torres enjoys videography, droning, surfing, traveling, coffee and espresso, and baseball. Please join me in welcoming Officer Torres to the city. Would Mr. Victor Wang join me, please, at the podium? Our newest employee, a crime analyst, long sought after by our police department for many, many months. So we're certainly pleased to have Mr. Wong here tonight. Victor Wong was hired as the Newark Police Department's first police crime analyst in April. Victor is a lateral crime analyst, most recently from BART Police Department. Victor was raised in Southern California and earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from UC Irvine. Those are the anteaters, for those of you that don't know. After college, Victor followed in his parents' footsteps and became an IT specialist working with software in vehicle technology used in repairs and maintenance measurements. After working in the IT field for a few years, Victor was not satisfied with his career choice and decided to go back to school. He started taking classes in microbiology, chemistry, and forensic science. He realized his true interests were in law enforcement, working behind the scenes. He earned his Master's of Science in Criminology from CSU Fresno with recognition. Much of Victor's graduate research gleaned in topics within elements of crime. He attended crime symposiums and presented or lectured undergraduate courses. His efforts often touched on long-term analysis of crimes and hotspots data. In Victor's spare time, he enjoys visiting local attractions, studying Bay Area roads. Studying Bay Area roads, huh? I need to see you when I try to figure out how to navigate our freeways here in the Bay Area. And how to get around without a car, learning other languages, cross-country travels. He has visited 36 of the 50 states and keeping up with technology. Please join me in welcoming Victor to the city of Newark. I'm going to issue a proclamation designating May 14 to May 20, 2023 as Police Week, and would ask our Chief Anderson, to please join me at the podium. Hi, Chief. Nice to see you. Chief puts on her glasses and I take off my glasses. Maybe we just need to change glasses.
This is the first time I'm wearing them in public. So.
There will be no pictures. No pictures. The bad guys don't want to see the chief wearing glasses. we are great supporters of our Newark Police Department, and so we are honored to recognize National Police Week. Whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week, whereas the members of the Newark Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the city of Newark. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people of the community by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Whereas the men and women of the City of Newark Police Department increasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Michael Hannon, the mayor of the city, along with my colleagues on the Newark City Council, recognize National Police Week in the city of Newark in honor of the law enforcement officers past and present who have rendered a dedicated service to the community, and do further proclaim May 15th, 2023 as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service in their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. I'm going to digress for just a moment. Most people don't recognize, I'd like to think most people do recognize and appreciate the safety that officers put themselves in every day. When I started in the city of San Jose back in 1986, we had 2 police officers in the downtown on San Carlos Street who were simply doing their duty and were killed that day. No day goes by that I don't appreciate the hard work that our officers do day in and day out, recognizing that on some days, some of them may not go home. They make the ultimate sacrifice, and we as a community need to recognize that and applaud them every day for the service that they provide to our community. They not only make us feel safe, but we are safe because of their responsibility and the service that they provide to our community. So, Chief, it's my pleasure to honor you and the officers of the City of Newark with this proclamation.
Can I have the mic for a minute?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, Mayor Hannon and members of the City Council, as Newark Police Chief, it's an honor for me to represent the men and women of our police department in accepting the proclamation this evening. Last year, 118 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty, protecting and serving communities across our country. Of those, 60 died as a result of felonious assaults. And as I know you appreciate, Mr. Hannon and members of our council, and also members of the city staff, our Newark officers respond to thousands of calls for service a year and are confronted with some of the most unimaginable circumstances. And they continue to have the emotional courage to help people in their worst and darkest moments. They have all chosen to make their life's work about helping others, so much so that in some cases they're willing to sacrifice their own lives to protect people that they don't even know. All of the members of your police department serve our community bravely, and your recognition of us during National Police Week and on Police Memorial Day is very much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to now issue a proclamation designating May 21 through May 27 as Public Works Week. Will Public Works Director Soren Fougeau please join me? Hi, Soren. National Public Works Week. Whereas Public Works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, parks and landscaping, and equipment maintenance, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public work officials. Now therefore, I, Michael Hannon, Mayor of the City of Newark, on behalf of my colleagues on the council, do hereby proclaim May 21 through May 27 as National Public Works Week in the City of Newark, and I call upon the community to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Again, as I digress for a minute, Public Works is one of those departments that you don't recognize the quality of the work that they do every day, because most of the work that they do is either on the streets or it's under the streets. But the first time there's an issue that goes wrong, they're the first folks that we're going to contact to make sure that your well-being is taken care of. So let's make sure we recognize all those hardworking folks that work in the Public Works Department in the City of Newark. And I present this to their director, Mr. Forgello.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I know that staff members from all 4 of our divisions in Public Works certainly appreciate the recognition at this time of year for the excellent work that they do. I'm happy to accept this on their behalf. We do have one quick announcement related to Public Works Week. We're looking to extend Public Works Week all the way into June this year with a special event on June 7th that we're calling Big Truck Day. This will be over at the Silliman Activity Center parking lot. And it's an idea that originated from our Recreation and Community Services folks. What we're going to do is provide a great opportunity for kids and parents to come out and take a look at some of the big equipment that Public Works Department has. And we'll be joined by the Fire Department, Alameda County Fire Department, and the Police Department with some of their specialty equipment. So we'll have some demonstrations on the equipment, activities and giveaways, and lots of fun that day. So again, that'll be Big Truck Day, Wednesday, June 7th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. over at the Silliman Center parking lot. Look forward to a good time there. Thank you.
I'm going to proclaim that May 23, 2023 as Building Safety Month, and I'm going to ask the Chief Building Official, Mr. Farrell, and all building inspectors to please come up and join me at the podium, please. Hi, Matthew. Hi. I'm not here to extend any unpermitted construction. I'm not here to permit any extensions on any building permits. Building Safety Month, for those of you that know, I worked in San Jose in the Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement Department, and we had such a great relationship with the building staff, because oftentimes the work that we came across in code enforcement was unpermitted construction. And what people don't realize is what you don't see behind the walls is something that's going to be an immediate hazard to your family, and that's why we have a permitting process, because we want to make sure that the places that you're living in and the places where your kids are sleeping is safe. So we have a building inspection process for a reason, is to make sure that any construction done in our city not only conforms with all building codes, but it's safe for you and your families. That's why this is so important. Whereas the City of Newark is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play both everyday life and when disasters strike. Whereas our confidence in the resilience of the building that make up our community is achieved through the implementation of modern building codes and the dedication of building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. Whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's local code officials who ensure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our property. And whereas safety for all building codes in action, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about planning for safe and sustainable construction, career opportunities in building safety, understanding disaster mitigation, energy conservation, and creating a safe and abundant water supply to all of our benefit. Now, therefore, I, Michael Hannon, Mayor of the City, along with my colleagues, do recognize this as Building Safety Month in Newark and urge all Newark residents to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and properties. So let's welcome and appreciate the work that our building folks do in our community.
Thank you, Mayor Henn. May is Building Safety Month, and we, Building Inspection Division, are here to serve the community and build resiliency and safety into the community. We strive to help provide options to move projects forward. Should community members ever have questions, don't hesitate to contact any of the building inspection staff. Should community members want to know more about Building Safety Month and the 5 topics this year, please search iccsafe.org, Advocacy Building Safety Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work, okay? Keep up the good work. I'm now going to issue a proclamation designating May 21 to 27 as Emergency Medical Services Week, and we'll invite Fire Division Chief Lupke to please join me, please, at the podium. Oh, sorry. Hey, nice to see you. You look so much younger.
Thank you, thank you. I've been hearing that.
I wish I could do something for that myself. You know, you see the theme tonight is safety, and no one is committed more to safety than the folks that I've mentioned tonight. Our police department, our fire department, our building inspection staff. You see the theme is safety of our residents, and that's what we're concerned about. And nobody contributes more to that than certainly our fire department. So it's my honor to recognize National Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services are vital public services, and whereas the members of the Alameda County Fire Department are dedicated to providing exceptional life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whereas the emergency medical services providers are dedicated to saving lives and limiting suffering, often under challenging circumstances, which often require personal sacrifice and risk. Whereas immediate access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas emergency medical services teams engage in specialized training and continued education to enhance their life-saving skills. Whereas our community benefits on a daily basis from the knowledge and skills of these highly trained individuals. Now, therefore, I, Michael Hannon, Mayor of the City, along with my colleagues, recognize this as National Emergency Medical Services Week and thank all emergency personnel for their dedication and professionalism. And again, these are folks that unless you call 911, you're not aware of all the services that they provide. But if you have a family member in distress, those are the folks you want at your property soon. And they do such an outstanding job. And many lives are saved because of their heroic action, and we thank them.
Thank you, Mayor. It is my honor to accept this on behalf of the firefighters that staff our 3 stations here in the city of Newark. I couldn't have said it any better. I did want to add that over the last 12 months, we have run 4,100 calls. 2,118 of those calls were EMS related. So that just goes to show the impact that we can have and do have throughout the community. As was already touched on, early intervention is the key. So call us early, call us often. We'll never turn you away. Thank you.
We've now reached the point on our agenda for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience or on Zoom to comment on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone that would like to speak to an item not on the agenda tonight? Ms. Harrington, is there anyone online that would like to speak to any item not on the agenda?
There is, Your Honor.
Great.
Diane Castleberry, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Mayor Hannon, City Council members, and City Manager Banal. My name is Diane Castleberry. I'm an External Affairs Representative with AC Transit. I would like to share a public service announcement. AC Transit has launched a project to review and update where, when, and how buses move throughout our service area, which includes your city of Newark. We're launching a top-to-bottom analysis of the system because travel patterns have changed in the wake of the pandemic, and we also face significant budget challenges. Therefore, we are gathering data and community input in the coming months to plan a new bus service network with the goal of better serving our riders. In April, we launched our project webpage, which is actransit.org/realign. That's spelled REALIGN, to help keep our riders and community informed as we move through our planning process. We are asking you to take our survey and reach out to your constituents and community to encourage them to take the survey, which will run into late May. I recognize that some of you representing the city attended our recent district briefing and may have already taken our survey, so we thank you very much. We are just asking, we've noticed that in the city of Newark, we haven't received that many responses, and so we want to make sure that the community of Newark, your voices are heard in terms of our bus service. And so last month, I sent all of you an email with additional details and social media posts that you can reshare with your followers and include in your newsletters and other ways that you can communicate with your constituents. I will also be resending this information to you tomorrow so that you'll have that in your inbox to help you access this information if you need it again. We will be popping up in different parts of the communities. I believe this Saturday we'll be at the Ohlone College, actually the campus in Fremont, but we'll be in different parts of the community, including Newark, as we move through this process. And we'll also be at different bus stops during the survey period throughout the project. The survey will help us understand what's important, identify priority destinations and connections, help us weigh in the trade-offs in terms of priorities that will inform the development of a draft set of guiding principles, priorities that will serve as a foundation for developing a new service plan. So late fall of this year, we expect to share proposed draft scenarios based on all of the input that we're going to be getting from the community. And we'll be seeking additional community input to help us make some decisions around the draft scenarios. And the goal is to implement new service by August 2024. So we encourage you and ask you to help us share the word, to please take our survey. It's called Realign. And you can also get it online at actransit.org/realign. And, just thank you very much for your time and your consideration. That concludes my remarks.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. Diane Shaw represents the city of Newark when it comes to transit. And so Diane is a big supporter of the city of Newark. So I would encourage residents to please go online and do complete the survey, and would ask Mr. Benoon if there's some link that we can place on our city website to encourage folks to complete the survey. That would be greatly appreciated. The next item is our consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of items D1 through D7. Are there any items staff would like pulled from the consent calendar?
Not this evening, Your Honor.
Are there any items that the public would like pulled from the consent calendar? Colleagues, are there any items that you want to pull from the consent calendar? Not this evening. Is there anybody online, Ms. Harrington, that would like to have an item pulled from the consent calendar?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. The consent calendar consists of the following items. 1 is the approval of audited demands. 2, the approval of the April 27, 2023 minutes. 3, the approval of plans and specifications, and adopt a resolution accepting the bid and awarding the contract for the total bid to Sposetto Engineering, Inc. for Safe Routes to School Improvements, Project 1280. It's exempt from CEQA, review per CEQA guidelines, section 15301. For approval of the plans and specifications, and adopt a resolution accepting the bid and awarding the contract for the base bid and additive alternate bid numbers 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 to G. Bortoletto and Company Incorporated for 2022-23 asphalt concrete street overlay program project number 1300 and amending the 2022 through 2024 biennial budget. That's also exempt from CEQA review per CEQA guidelines, section 15301. 5, adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the contractual services agreement with the Bureau Veritas North America Incorporated for additional building inspection division plan review and miscellaneous support services. 6, adopt a resolution approving a contractual service agreement with Mike York's Investigations and amending the 2022-2024 biennial budget. And finally, introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 1504 General Provisions and Chapter 1544 Green Building and Construction and Waste Debris Recycling of the Newark Municipal Code to align with state requirements. Would someone like to move the items to be approved as recommended by staff, with any items approved by resolution or ordinance being numbered consecutively, and that the reading of the title suffice for purposes of introduction or ordinance or adoption of the ordinance? So moved. By Councilmember Bucci.
Seconded.
By Councilmember Jorgens. Please vote. That passes unanimously, 4 ayes, with Vice Mayor Susie Collazo absent.
Ordinance Council of the City of Newark amending Chapter 4 General Provisions and amending Chapter 15.44 Green Building and Construction and Demolition Debris Recycling of the Newark Municipal Code to make administrative revisions and revisions regarding construction and demolition waste diversion requirements.
Thank you. The next item, folks, are public hearings. Item number 1, we're going to be canceling a public hearing to consider approval of P 2021-002, including an ordinance establishing a planned development overlay district, entitlements for design review, a minor use permit, and a vesting tentative map, and adoption of mitigated negative declaration supported by an initial study in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act for a 118-unit residential development located at 38288 through 38594 Cedar Boulevard. City Manager?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. This item is not yet ripe for council consideration. However, we are planning for a duly noticed public hearing in 2 weeks, so we are planning that this item be considered by the council at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Badoon. Do I need to do anything opening and closing, or that's sufficient?
I think that would suffice.
Thank you. Item 2 is a public hearing and introduce an ordinance approving and readopting a military equipment and use policy as stated in Chapter 2.50 Military Equipment Use Policy of the Newark Municipal Code in compliance with Assembly Bill 481. Mr. Badoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. E2 is a public hearing to consider recommendation to readopt the city's military equipment use policy. Tonight, we have a relatively brief presentation from Captain Macias. Captain Macias, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Hannon, members of the council, City Manager Manoon, community members and staff. I'm Captain Jolie Macias. I am here tonight to recommend that a public hearing is held to introduce an ordinance approving and readopting a military equipment use policy in compliance with Assembly Bill 481. Annual reporting and ordinance approval by council is required prior to acquiring or using certain police equipment. In 2021, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 481, presented as part of a package of public safety bills intended to increase transparency and accountability. The intent of this timeline is to provide a background overview of the actions that have been taken thus far. Upon the new law change, a military equipment policy was introduced to council on May 26, 2022. An ordinance was adopted upon a second reading on June 9th. The policy was published on the Newark.org website, along with the actual inventory of our police equipment. In compliance with AB 481 requirements, the 2022 Annual Military Equipment Use and Qualifying Equipment Inventory was published on our website this past March 7th, 2023. The report addresses all equipment usage, costs, internal audits, and community feedback. As required, a community engagement meeting was held within 30 days of this report's publication. Community members were able to ask questions and get a close-up, hands-on look at the equipment, which was all on display in our community meeting training room and parked in the lot just outside. So what exactly is considered military equipment? Although AB 481 has labeled these items as military equipment, the police department and law enforcement in general has had a long use of many of these items as standard police equipment. The items on this slide are an overview of the items included in the full published equipment inventory, which is also linked to our policy and annual report. All of these items are described in detail to include quantity owned, associated costs, product description, purpose, rules governing use, and training requirements. To recap the bill's requirements for council. Upon review of the annual report provided in your March 7th council packet, along with the unchanged Newark Police Department Policy 709, all listed equipment is cost-effective and necessary. This policy will continue to be reviewed annually to ensure that the equipment contributes to the welfare and safety of our community. Lastly, an annual vote is required. It is staff's recommendation to conduct a public hearing, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance approving and readopt a military equipment use policy as stated in Chapter 2.50 of the Newark Municipal Code.
Thank you, Captain Macias. The public hearing is now open to consider introducing an ordinance and readopting a military policy as stated in Chapter 2.50, Military Equipment Use Policy, to Title II, Administrative and Personnel of the Newark Municipal Code in compliance with Assembly Bill 481. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Ms. Harrington, any folks on Zoom that would like to speak to this item?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. So the public hearing is now closed. Council, comments? Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two quick questions. The inventory list, do we leave it up on the website all year long?
Yes.
Or is it up and then, okay.
No, it'll stay on the website all year long. It was posted March 7th with the annual report from last year, and it'll remain on the website all year.
If we decide to approve any new equipment that might make that list, would it then get added to the inventory list when we reapprove it the new year, or would we update the list that's?
We would have to update the list, repost it, hold the hearing within 30 days of the posting, and then go through the process of bringing it back to you all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Captain.
Other questions? Councilmember Jorgens.
So the community meeting on April 4, what was the outreach? What did that look like to make sure the community knew that that was happening?
Yeah, we posted, made several social media posts on our regular city of, not the city of Newark, on the Newark Police Department social media account. So we pushed out an initial posting it was about 1 month prior to the event, and that was on our Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, and Nixle. Not Nixle, Twitter, excuse me. And then within 3 days of the event, we did a follow-up reminder post with the same outreach through our Newark Police Department social media account.
Thank you.
Thank you. I attended that event, and it was actually well attended by members of our community. And as the captain mentioned, you actually had hands-on opportunity to look and touch the equipment that our officers use. There was nothing that wasn't out there on display. They were there to answer questions and talk about when certain equipment is used, under what circumstances. So big thanks, Captain, for the officers that were there that evening. It's important. You know, if people are going to feel safe in their community, they want to know how we do, what we do, so that they feel comfortable in calling for police officer assistance. Mr. Benoon, the only suggestion I would make moving forward is when we do this next year, maybe put like a little paragraph in the Newark newsletter, just advising folks that it's coming up, 30, 60, 90 days from now. Because I think the more people that attend and are familiar with this equipment, I think the safer our community is going to feel overall. This is an action item, so we need to adopt or re-adopt the ordinance. So I'll ask colleagues to go ahead and vote on this.
So move the item.
I'm sorry. Not that I was counting ahead of time. Moved by Councilmember Freitas. Second. By Councilmember Bucci. Now we'll vote. Oh my God. I'm still here though. So we're gonna. So we're gonna. I was just getting comfortable at doing this. We talked about this.
What the game?
Wait. Mr. Bucci needs to vote. There you go.
We get to see it before anybody else, so if he hits back real quick, no one gets to see what he just did.
I just got outed.
Thank you.
So that passes unanimously for, and Councilmember Collazo, Vice Mayor Collazo is absent this evening. Thank you,
Ordinance
Captain,
of-
for the presentation.
Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newark adopting a military equipment use policy, 150 military equipment use policy to Title II, Administration and Personnel of the Newark Municipal Code in compliance with Assembly Bill 481.
Thank you. And the next item is also extremely important. It's a presentation by our police chief, Gina Anderson, on crime statistics in the city of Newark. Mr. Benoon?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. This is the annual crime report from our police council to the public. Chief Anderson tonight will present on a variety of topics, including last year's statistics on property crimes, person crimes, traffic collisions, as well as existing current police department initiatives. With that in mind, I'll turn it over to Chief Anderson.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor Hannon and council members. I'm Gina Anderson. It's a pleasure for me to be here this evening representing the men and women of the Newark Police Department as the Chief of Police and to deliver the Newark Police Department's 2022 annual report. I'm also pleased to have with me this evening Captain Jolie Macias. 2022 was a challenging year for many reasons. Like many cities in our country, Newark was not immune from experiencing the challenge of recruiting and hiring highly ethical, competent, and capable police officers who support Newark's community values. We continued to be challenged with state and county mandates that impacted our criminal justice system. In an era in which the expectations of many communities regarding crime, those who commit crime, and victimization are evolving. Despite these challenges, and at every turn, your dedicated public servants rose to the challenges and continued to employ innovative strategies to address crime, educate our community on crime prevention, as well as maintained our community partnerships and researched and implemented various technologies to aid our efforts in solving and preventing crime. As I move through this presentation this evening, it is not lost on me that many of our accomplishments would not have been possible without the support of each of you as our mayor and council. I'm thankful for our city council's support on many of our accomplishments, including the recent approval of a crime analyst, support services manager, police officer recruitment plan, and our necessary equipment. The mission of the Newark Police Department is to provide professional public safety services in partnership with our community. We support our mission through our commitment to our community and our employees to improve the quality of life for all through proactive and innovative public safety services. I hope it is clear to each of you, as the leaders of our city, and to Mr. Benoon, that the mission and vision are supported by all of the members of our police department, and their commitment to it is reflected in the services we provide daily. The mission and vision were developed through a collaborative effort involving all the ranks and positions within our agency. In order to support the mission and vision in 2022, with the participation of all the department members and our staff, we developed our 2022 strategic plan. The strategic plan was designed to connect the mission and vision through pillars into action items. The members of the department work together to identify these 6 pillars: communication, both internally and externally; accountability to ourselves, each other, and our community; discipline, which essentially is a structured and professional approach to how we provide services to our community, which leads to professionalism; ensuring we are always focused on ways to develop the future leaders in our organization, and that we work to maintain trust both within the department and in our community. These action items were designed to move the police department forward while taking into consideration the needs of our community, all while connecting the pillars through the mission and the vision. The same collaborative approach used to develop the strategic plan was used to accomplish the action items. The police department completed 51 action items last year. We are proud to highlight some of the achievements of this past year, particularly these 14 accomplishments, which were of higher priority and significance. We developed and implemented a comprehensive recruitment plan, which I will highlight further in the presentation. Our community safety camera program was researched and implemented, and you will hear more details about the progress of this program from Captain Macias. The recruitment and hiring of our crime analyst, a key element in our comprehensive crime reduction plan. We trained 2 acting sergeants, so we are prepared to seamlessly fill future vacancies. We developed a procedures manual to coincide with our policy manual and ensure consistency in our day-to-day operations. We ensured every member of the police department was clear on their individual expectations and how they support the mission, vision, and values of the organization and our community expectations. We implemented the state-mandated Racial and Identity Profiling Act. We launched a comprehensive media plan and issued the first citations for violations of our new fireworks social host ordinance. We implemented the state-mandated military equipment policy and complied with the requirements. Peregrine Technologies was integrated and launched to support our crime reduction and investigative efforts. We recruited and hired a support services manager to support our professional staff in dispatch, records, property and evidence, and analytics. We improved the mental and physical well-being of our staff by adding a sleep room and adjustable desk to our existing wellness program. We added additional officers and officer training to our field training program to ensure we have competent and capable trainers to provide the necessary training to the recruits as they come out of the police academy. And we standardize our promotional and specialized assignment processes. It is important for me to mention that although this was the police department's strategic plan, for us to have successfully accomplished most of these projects, we needed the help of the members of our other city departments. It was truly a collaborative effort for us to accomplish this. So a special thank you goes out to Mr. Benoon for his leadership and support, Assistant City Manager Lenka Havorka, Public Works Director Soren Frageau, City Attorney Chris Cocateo, Finance Director Kristen Lee, Fire Chief Jeff Lukey, IT Director Ed Miranda, HR Director Jennifer Salito, and Community Development Director Stephen Turner. All of their departments helped us accomplish many of these 14 action items that I just explained, as well as the others that completed our 51 action items that we completed last year. Thank you, Mayor Hannon and Council, for your support on many of these projects as well. We are pleased to report we achieved 51 of our goals and made meaningful progress towards our vision of the future of the Newark Police Department and public safety in Newark. In addition to our focus on crime reduction and improving the quality of life for those who live, work, and travel through our community, in 2023, you will see added focus on employee retention, recruitment. Ideally, we will extend the careers of our members through employee wellness initiatives that prevent work-related injuries. We will consistently evaluate technology to see if there are ways we can increase the efficiency and focus our development on future leaders in our organization. The Newark Police Department has authorized 58 sworn staff and 33 professional staff positions. As of the making of this slide, our vacancy was 11 police officers. Because this is an ever-moving target, and largely due to City Council's support of our recruitment efforts, we have one trainee expected to graduate the academy at the end of June, 4 will enter the academy at the end of this month. 2 will start the academy in July. And I'm pleased to say we are now down to 9 officer vacancies. Leadership development continued to be a focus in 2022. We promoted 1 sergeant, developed 2 acting sergeants, and provided consistency and investigative knowledge and skills by adopting a lead detective. The city sponsors 2 leadership academies coordinated by Assistant City Manager Linka Havorka, the Emerging Leaders and Mid-Management Academy. Last year, we had 4 graduates of the program and 3 are currently in progress. And in addition to city-sponsored leadership programs, recently Captain Macias graduated from the Police Officers Standard and Training Command College and earned her master's degree. And Captain Jonathan Arguello is currently attending the FBI's National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Both are prestigious police executive leadership programs. Thank you, Mayor Hannon, again, and council members for supporting our recruitment and hiring program. Since its inception, we have significantly increased the number of police applicants, which has resulted in more applicants successfully passing background and entering the police academy. These successful applicants are exceptionally suited for our community. And in fact, when asked why Newark, in many cases, and in large part, it was due to their awareness that we have significant support from our council and our community. They mentioned that. That's what they talked about, that they wanted to be here because of the support that we're provided in our community and by our council. And this is how we get qualified and capable public servants that are dedicated to their communities, a community that loves them, respects them, and appreciates and values their work. The components of our recruitment plan involved the addition of a dedicated recruitment sergeant, which, to be clear, was not the addition of a new position, but a reallocation of an existing sergeant position to primarily focus on our recruitment efforts. There was an increase in police officer hourly pay during the academy, a lateral police officer hiring incentive program. We implemented an employee referral incentive program, which applies to all full-time Newark City employees, not just police employees. A step-for-step hiring for lateral officers, a lateral officer leave incentive, some moving expense reimbursements, and academy cost reimbursement for those who completed the academy prior to being hired. And we also created a dedicated police recruitment website. Last year, our field personnel responded to 35,083 field incidents. Of those, 23,180 were community-initiated service calls and 11,903 were officer-initiated calls. Officer-initiated activities are, for example, car stops for vehicle code violations, contact with community members, and business security checks. Our dispatchers handled 64,414 calls, which included both incoming and outgoing phone calls. And what's really impressive about this slide is that our dispatchers answer 911 calls almost 100% of the time within 15 seconds. The National Emergency Number Association standard for 911 calls is that they are answered within 15 seconds 90% of the time. And when seconds matter, this is exceptional. These next 2 slides represent the uniform crime reports for 2019, 2020, and 2021. In addition, a 2021 and 2022 comparison. You will notice an asterisk next to the 2022 number. The Newark Police Department transitioned to cyber's reporting at the end of 2021. So 2022 is the first full year of cyber's statistical information. As a refresher from my 2021 annual report, uniform crime reporting was a collective effort by cities, counties, and state law enforcement to represent a nationwide view on crime. And it was also generally used by law enforcement agencies to indicate an increase or decrease in the crimes that are occurring in their communities. In recent years, the FBI decided that each state will need to report crime statistics in a national incident-based reporting system, which is referred to as NIBRS. And then in California, the Department of Justice expanded the NIBRS data elements to require the collection of more specific data and eliminate the hierarchy rule, which is a rule that allowed the reporting of the single most serious offense regardless of if there were other offenses that occurred during the same incident. Cybers will collect up to 10 of the reportable offenses even when they occur at the same incident, which is effectively a more accurate way of capturing and reporting crime. So for example, if a victim of a murder If there was a victim of a murder during the commission of a robbery, under UCR system, only the murder would be recorded because of the hierarchy rule. Using Cybers, both the murder and the robbery would be reported in their respective categories. And in addition, under the UCR system, a single incident was recorded regardless of how many victims were involved. Under Cybers, an incident is reported for each victim. So for example, if a robbery occurs and there are 2 victims, under the old system of UCR reporting, that would reflect 1 robbery. Under the Cybers, where the new cyber system reporting would show the robbery as 2 robberies. The end result is that there may be an appearance that crime is increased in certain categories in 2022 compared to previous years because we are now capturing the crime that was considered lesser under the hierarchy rule. And so this is something just to keep in mind moving forward. Mm-hmm. So the 4 significant categories of persons crimes are homicide, rape, robbery, and assault. So when you look at this slide, there is a likelihood that assaults and batteries have increased because there is generally an element of assault and battery that occurs in homicide, rape, and robbery. So if considering that in that context, it is likely that assault and battery did not really increase as significantly as depicted on this screen. In Newark, we have consistently had 1 homicide case per year. This past year, we sadly experienced 4. These homicides were not random occurrences, they were not predictable, and in each case, we believe the suspect knew the victim. 1 more murder appeared to be retaliatory, stemming from an event that occurred in San Jose on the freeway. The second was an altercation over money owed between 2 parties that resulted in a physical confrontation in which the victim suffered significant injuries and died at the hospital. The third was a physical altercation at a park involving suspected gang members, which resulted in significant injuries and later death. The fourth occurred during a robbery in which we believe the parties were known to each other. In addition, although down this year, we take the crime of rape seriously, and our detective unit tenaciously investigates them to resolution. Our detective team provided their greatest investigative efforts towards solving these crimes, and I do not want to minimize the seriousness of these crimes, but do want to reassure the community when I say these were not random events, and they were cases in which the victim and the suspect were known to each other. When robberies do occur, our detectives aggressively investigate them. Although time and locations of these crimes are difficult to predict, our officers work with our community members on prevention strategies through Neighborhood Watch and Merchant Watch meetings, social media campaigns, and crime prevention through environmental design efforts. The most significant increase in property crime last year is in the category of burglary, which includes both residential and commercial burglary. Our detectives identified a crime spree in which a single suspect was responsible for over 150 commercial burglaries. This suspect was arrested and released twice prior to his 3rd arrest, which involved his inability to post bail, and he is now in prison. The same suspect committed an additional 100 burglaries in our surrounding cities. Community safety cameras were used to identify the other victimized communities. We continue to experience an increase in property crime. Some of the factors we believe may have contributed to the crime increase are the result of the fact that many offenders are not incarcerated long enough to receive the help they need, like substance abuse treatment, for example, and are immediately released into the community to commit additional crimes to support their habits. Suspects who are incarcerated are prevented from committing additional crimes. When suspects were released back into the communities with a notice to appear in court at a later date, there is little incentive to appear in court. Since COVID-19, there has been a substantial backlog of delayed criminal trials. This has resulted in a system where officers arrest suspects for committing crimes such as theft, burglary, and motor vehicle theft, and these suspects are immediately released back into the community to commit another offense. During interviews with our officers, suspects have actually said they know they will receive a citation and then be released. There is not serious consequences, which is why they continue to commit crimes. This is not unique to Newark. Our experiences are consistent with the experiences of other cities in the region and state. To prevent further victimization to our community, we will continue to examine our cases, and we will work with other agencies in the region to identify criminals who are committing crimes in multiple jurisdictions. We continue our participation with the Southern Alameda County Major Crimes Task Force. We provide training to our new officers on how to identify and document gang-related activities. We ensure our criminal evidence response team has the most current training on evidence identification and collection techniques. We continue our participation with the Silicon Valley Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory. And as part of our overall new comprehensive crime reduction plan, we have increased our community involvement through social media, the use of privately owned and city-acquired community safety cameras, increased community crime prevention meetings, and dedicated more time to our Merchant Watch program. We now have a dedicated crime analyst who is evaluating crimes, dates, time, locations, and methods, and provides this information to our detectives to help solve crime and to our patrol staff in an effort to prevent crime from occurring or to catch a criminal in the commission of the act. We are also using technology to share data with neighboring agencies to help solve crime and apprehend suspects that cross into other jurisdictions. In 2022, we processed 5,164 cases, and I recognize that number looks very large when compared to other numbers on this slide. This is the number of all reported cases. For example, if someone reports a package theft and there's no information that could lead us to a suspect, that case is part of this number. If we have a series of vehicle burglaries and are unable to find evidence that would lead us to a suspect, those crimes are also represented in this number. Generally speaking, when a victim does not want prosecution or they're uncooperative, these are also represented in this 5,164 number. The number of cases in which the officer had enough evidence to make an arrest was 799. Those cases were sent to the district attorney's office. Of the cases sent, 53 were charged as felonies, 262 as misdemeanors. In 56 cases, the probation of the offender was revoked, and in 339 cases, prosecution was denied. Our communities do not go from being safe to being unsafe overnight. Our communities become less safe incrementally, and it starts when those with an intent on victimizing our communities determine just how much lawlessness is acceptable. And this incremental acceptance moves the bar just a little bit further as the new standard of lawlessness becomes acceptable. When crimes are committed and not prosecuted, it leaves victims without justice and empowers criminals to continue their victimization. In April of this year, the Department of Justice released a bulletin titled Arrest History of Persons Admitted to State Prison in 2009 and 2014. And according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, persons admitted to prison had a median of 9 prior arrests in their criminal histories prior to being admitted to state prison. Although we are not ultimately responsible for the prosecution of criminals, we are committed to putting forward our best investigative effort prior to sending the cases to the district attorney's office. And with the help of our new crime analyst, we are now tracking our cases to look for patterns that may identify how we may improve our criminal investigations. This slide is a picture representation of the breakdown by percentage of the 710 case dispositions by felony, misdemeanor, probation, revoked, and declined to prosecute. This slide is a graph comparison of the last 4 years of collision calls for service and investigations. The blue bar is all calls for service, which could include multiple calls for the same crash. The green bar represents collisions investigated, and the red bar are fatal collisions. In 2022, 385 total collision cases were taken. So I'll explain why that doesn't look right on the bar when you look at the numbers. 282 were non-injury collisions, plus 103 were injury collisions, and 5 were fatal, which total 385. 34 of the collisions involved driving under the influence. You can see that collisions decreased significantly in 2020 during the pandemic, slowly raised in 2021, and have tapered off. Concerning and of note are the 5 fatal collisions. In 2022, we had 5 fatal collisions. In the first collision, the driver performed an illegal drifting maneuver and collided with a parked car, killing his passenger. The driver was under the influence. In the second collision, 2 drivers were racing, ran a red light at approximately 100 miles per hour and collided with another driver, killing this person. Driving under the influence was involved. The third collision involved a driver who collided with a pedestrian. The suspect fled. The vehicle is located unoccupied, and this case is still under investigation. The fourth case involved a bicyclist who was riding in the roadway at night. The bicyclist was struck by a vehicle. The vehicle fled the scene, but was eventually arrested utilizing community safety camera alerts. The fifth case involved a motorcyclist who was traveling at a high rate of speed while passing another vehicle. A vehicle making a left turn from a side street was clearing the intersection and was hit by the motorist, killing the motorcyclist. Even one fatal collision is not acceptable, and we will continue to work towards our goal of 0 and encourage our community to work with us by not drinking and driving and to give themselves plenty of time to travel to their destinations. This is a great slide. Of the 35,000 field incidents last year, only 48 resulted in an officer having to control combative or physically resisting suspects. In those 48 cases, no civilians or officers were seriously injured. There were no officer-involved shootings, and there were no in-custody deaths. Although officers cannot be expected to successfully de-escalate every situation, we have highly trained and skilled officers. We continue to provide essential training to our staff, which among many topics included scenario-based force options training, de-escalation, crisis intervention, tactical communication, and in all our scenario-based training, we require using de-escalation skills. In addition, I'm proud to say when audited by the California Commission on Peace Officers Standard and Training, we were 100% in compliance with the audit. Our officers use force less than 1% of the time. In fact, the actual number is 1/10 of 1%, which is actually even closer to 0. This slide is a picture representation of the percentage of times each type of force was used in comparison to the total number. And at this time, I will introduce you again to Captain Jolie Macias, who will take over the remainder of the presentation to report out on community safety camera program and our community engagement efforts.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening again, everyone. This annual report summary spans primarily from our new community camera system activation in October of '22 through the last week of April of 2023. Last June, the installation of 20 flock safety automated license plate reader, or ALPR, cameras was approved by council. Additionally, within the city, there are 16 privately owned flock safety cameras located at 4 of our neighborhoods through homeowners associations. Install for the city-owned cameras was completed in October of 2022. Subsequent annual reports will consist of calendar year data to be presented with the police department's overall annual report. Internal audits of the system were conducted, which revealed 2 minor training issues within the first month of the system being live. One identified issue was that an offense code was entered instead of a police report number during a search. The other issue required staff to be retrained to only use department-wide organizational lists for known wanted vehicles. The only other issue that surfaced from our internal audits was that 4 employees had not completed the activation of their accounts. All of these issues were swiftly rectified and not repeated. Looking over to the ALPR data, it's important to point out that the statistics that you see are all associated with either camera activations or investigations that use the system to generate investigative leads. So out of the 20 City of Newark cameras, there was a total of 485 police incidents. There were 145 additional incidents involving HOA cameras, and this is the only data on the slide that spans back to June of 2022 through last month. The total number of police crime reports was 73. The number of persons arrested was 24, 2 of which are directly attributed to HOA camera activations, and 51 stolen vehicles were recovered. Our most significant cases have involved the recovery of firearms, of which there were a total of 15 firearms recovered, all using ALPR technology. In October, multiple camera activations alerted officers to a stolen vehicle that entered our city, and officers began to search for it. Shortly after the alerts, a drive-by shooting occurred involving the vehicle that officers were already looking for. Upon locating the vehicle, 3 suspects fled on foot. The stolen vehicle and a semi-automatic handgun was recovered. In early December of last year, a homicide related to this drive-by shooting occurred, where the suspect was captured on our cameras leaving the city. The vehicle was later found to have entered and exited the city multiple times before the crime occurred. During the apprehension of the suspect, a Glock handgun was recovered. Our community safety camera system was instrumental in providing investigative leads to identify multiple suspects and their associated vehicles in a high-end auto theft crime ring. The investigation was conducted over several months and involved multiple jurisdictions, resulting in the recovery of 17 stolen vehicles, 12 firearms, 2 ballistic vests, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and various auto theft technology equipment. Most recently, a camera activation alerted officers of a stolen vehicle entering the city on February 21st of this year. The vehicle was located at a motel. The driver was arrested for attempting to strike an officer with the vehicle, being a felon in possession of a firearm, and for the stolen vehicle possession. During the past year, our staff has been working with limited resources. This technology has allowed them to be more efficient and directed in their efforts to solve and prevent crime. If we continue to publicize this program's success, our hope is to not only solve crimes that have occurred in our city, but to deter them from occurring at all. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit and close this out by providing information about our community engagement efforts. The interactive partnerships we have with the people we serve keeps our police department informed of community happenings, helps build trust, and empowers all stakeholders to have a part in solving public safety problems. As you know, we have a robust and engaged volunteer program.
These people donate countless hours of their own time for the betterment of our city and police department. I want to take a moment to recognize recently passed longtime volunteer, police explorer, cadet, and Citizen Police Academy graduate, Blake Mose. Blake, we thank you for your dedicated service to our department. Our volunteers perform a variety of tasks inside the department and out in the community. They're often the first friendly face to greet you at our front counter. They help with many of our community events and provide important services such as Americans with Disabilities Act parking compliance, and are continually covering and removing unsightly graffiti throughout the city. Not many cities can boast that they offer services such as vacation home checks. We have our volunteers to thank for this community service. In addition to helping out with city events like Music in the Grove and our Civic Center open house, our police explorers meet weekly to learn from our dedicated Explorer Advisory team. They learn about our department, the city, and the law enforcement profession. Many of our former explorers have successfully transitioned to various jobs within the department, and it is our preferred recruitment source. Our neighborhood and merchant watch groups allowed for consistent communication between our department, our neighborhoods, and the business community. The Merchant Watch program was relaunched early last year in response to the previously mentioned increase in commercial burglaries throughout our city. Last year, we hosted 10 merchant meetings with property owners and businesses to keep everyone informed about the ongoing investigation and to provide resources such as crime prevention through environmental design assessments, or SEPTEDs, of the affected shopping centers. Although the suspect was apprehended and is currently serving time, the merchant relationships developed are continuing to help us collaborate on new issues as they arise. We continued the very popular annual document shredding event. This year's event is anticipated for early October. We had a great turnout for our second annual Faith and Blue event, which was held in the police community training room, where connections were made with various faith-based organizations and community members. Everyone's favorite event, because it's the most delicious, National Night Out, brought our neighborhood watch groups, HOAs, and city staff together to interact on a personal level while enjoying a wide variety of Newark cuisines. Last year was our 23rd Citizen Police Academy class. This fall, we are looking to expand our Citizens Police Academy to include a Spanish-speaking session. Our city-sponsored events that include Family Day in the Park and our tree lighting have continued to grow with our dynamic, changing city. The police department provides safety services for these events while making community connections. The city of Newark is a great place to work, so in order to encourage those considering a law enforcement career, last year we held 2 practice physical agility tests here on site for potential police officer recruits. We partnered once again with New Park Mall during their Halloween trick-or-treat event. We hosted many police department tours and spent time reading to Newark Unified students in their classrooms. I'd like to take this last opportunity to highlight some incredible community initiatives spearheaded by individual police department employees. Last year, Sergeant Carl Fredstrom was responsible for coordinating the donation of 250 turkeys to the Viola Blythe Social Service Organization. He began this initiative in 2015, and the number of turkeys donated increases every year. Officers Joyce Wong, Andrew Musantri, and Stephen Lozier, who's usually here, or our regular Sergeant at Arms, organized another successful holiday toy drive for local nonprofit groups. And dispatcher Don Page was responsible for a successful Special Olympics torch run through our city. To wrap up the highlights of 2022, as an organization, we are proud of our team's accomplishments, our citywide partnerships, and the service provided to our community. We are fortunate to work with an incredible city staff and just as grateful to work in such a supportive community. Thank you, Newark City Council, for your continued support. Newark Police Department is the trusted professional organization it is because of our dedicated staff and because of all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Benoon. Chief?
Thank you, Captain. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank each of you as our council for your leadership and support. I should just let Captain Macias have closed that out because she did a fabulous closing job. I can't overstate the degree to which this community recognizes the hard work and sacrifice of their public safety professionals. The vision rests with you, and it's greatly appreciated. And so with that, we are happy to stay and answer questions.
Thank you, Chief. Before I get to council comments and questions, because I imagine there will be quite a few of those, I'm going to ask anybody in the audience, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item or make comment on this item? Ms. Harrington, anybody online that would like to speak to this item?
No, Your Honor.
Great. So now I'll turn to my colleagues for comments and or questions. I'll start with Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Chief. Thank you for the great presentation. I know we've had quite a few things happen this year, so it was it's been an interesting one to say the least. A couple quick questions. I know last year we talked a lot about when they changed the reporting standards from the UCR to the cybers, and we're really trying to compare apples and oranges right now because they're not exactly the same. How are our cyber numbers compared to other cities regionally in the area? Are we in line with kind of what we see other places doing? Are we not jumping as much? Because a year in, that's really the only kind of metric we have to go off of.
You know, I appreciate that question, and it's a question that comes up by a lot of members of communities, is how do we compare to other cities? And that's a really difficult question to answer because there are so many factors that go into how each individual city reports crime. For example, some cities will not, if a community member calls in and the crime does not rise to a specific threshold, they may allow for the member to submit, a paper report to the police department that will be, and they're given a case number for their record. And so programs like that tend to reduce the likelihood that someone will actually report the crime. So that can impact how much crime is being reported. Also, not all cities transitioned to the cybers from UCR to cybers at the same time. So that differentiates when you're trying to compare cities against each other. So typically what we try to do as agencies is compare your own statistics to your years past statistics so that you know how your history has been in reporting and when you made transitions such as UCR to cybers. I can say that at the regional chiefs meeting, we discussed crime, and there are increases in the entire region. So we are not unique in Newark in that way.
Yeah. Just another thing real quick, when we talked about we charged 799 crimes, and then there was a decline to charge for what appeared to be 47.7% of them. It was a little confusing in there, so I just want to be clear that people understand that is the DA's office declining charging. That has nothing to do with the city of Newark. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. It just didn't say that up there very clear, so I want people to know that we're,
I appreciate you taking the opportunity to clarify that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I started doing the math on the numbers, and then the very next slide had the percentage up, so it made my job easy.
If you're, just to make your job a little bit easier, if you're looking at the 799 number, on the next slide, it's going to say 710. So 799 cases were sent to the district attorney's office. 710 have been provided a disposition at this point. So there's still this gap of where the cases are at the DA's office, but we don't have a resolution as to whether or not they're going to be charged.
Okay. And then, we're 6 months into the our camera program, so there's not enough data to really talk about a lot of that just yet. But I did have a question since it came up during that part of the presentation, because I was familiar with the drive-by shooting and the 3 suspects we chased. But it was never mentioned if we eventually caught up to them.
So I'll turn that over to Captain Macias.
So in mentioning the suspects were identified and Major Crimes took that investigation over. It is presumed that the 3 suspects were juveniles and follow-up was handled by Major Crimes investigation. But I don't think there was a resolution in terms of an arrest because there was an inability to place a formal ID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Jorgens.
Yes, thank you again for the terrific presentation. For the collision data, do we collect long-term data on different intersections that might be problems that might need to be a priority for this council moving forward to make those intersections safer, to get that number down to 0 fatalities?
We do collect historical data on the collisions at the various intersections in Newark. Just generally speaking, the majority of our collisions, if you were to capture hotspots collision data, are areas that you would probably expect to have most of our collisions occur, and those are the areas where we have most of the traffic, like most traffic travels through those intersections. So intersections, for example, Jarvis at Newark Boulevard, the New Park Mall area at Maury and Cedar, and Thornton and Cedar Boulevard would likely be our top collision locations.
Thank you.
If I just may add, all traffic collision reports are forwarded to the City of Newark's Public Works Department, specifically the Engineering Division. And engineering staff does perform an analysis to identify if there's any trends that would warrant modifications of any of our existing infrastructure. And so they do that on a regular basis. Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Councilmember Freitas. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, very detailed, so thank you to the police department.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
A couple questions, more comments than questions. Remind me, Chief, when we surveyed our residents, how many of them felt satisfied or extremely satisfied by the work done by our officers day in and day out?
Sir, it is a pleasure for me to answer that question of yours. That percentage is 92%.
You made a comment in your presentation, and I find it a very sad comment, how much lawlessness is going to be tolerated. And as some of you may know, my son was a district attorney up in, or a deputy district attorney up in Portland, Oregon. And most people think of district attorneys that work in the office, their goal is simply to prosecute and put people away. That's not the role of a district attorney at the staff level. Their role is to weigh all the evidence, look at any extenuating facts that might contribute to the condition or situation, and then work on a reasonable and responsive charge. What troubles me is that we have a district attorney in Alameda County, so it's not the day-to-day district attorneys that are trying every day to prosecute crimes. It's a district attorney in Alameda County who has taken it upon herself to create an environment where recidivism and other multiple crimes are allowed to continue to occur in our communities. You mentioned, Chief, the regional chiefs in the area. Do you, as chiefs, meet with the district attorney herself on a periodic basis to describe the impacts created by failure to prosecute crimes that are impacting our communities?
The district attorney was present at a regional retreat in January. We do have regional monthly meetings. The district attorney is always invited to attend those meetings. I have not seen her recently.
Okay. I would certainly be willing to sign a letter and encourage my colleagues to sign a letter on behalf of the city of Newark to the district attorney, expressing our concerns about their office's failure to prosecute crimes and the impacts that they create in our community. I put that out there to you, Chief, to consider. The 300, and I think it was 99 cases that were not prosecuted. Could you give me just a snapshot of what those crimes looked like? What victims are out there that are not getting the justice that they deserve because of the district attorney's failure to prosecute crimes? Can you give me a kind of a list of some of those crimes?
Sir, that's a very complicated question and a large number of cases, over 300. I don't have that information in front of me today, but it is something that I can have our staff research and provide you with an answer.
Great. I love the new technology, cybers, to reflect the total crime occurring in the community, because it's necessary to accurately reflect, and our citizens deserve that accurate information as to what's happening in their community. As you mentioned, we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick, but that's simply making sure that we count all the crimes that are occurring in the community. So I appreciated that. Big thanks to the dispatch crew. I think you indicated it was 64,414 calls for service. That's 176 calls per day. So big thanks to the folks that work in the dispatch unit for the work that they do. Those are my questions and my comments. Big thanks to you, Chief, for the work that you and your officers do day in and day out. We continue to support you and the staff. I love the idea of looking at new technology, because we're going to struggle to get 100% staffing in our police department. So the more we can utilize new technology to make our officers not only respond to crime, but respond to crime more efficiently, is really in the best interest of our community. So if there's no more comments by my colleagues, I thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, sir. It's always my pleasure.
Now we turn to city council matters, and I'll look to Councilmember Jorgens.
Thank you. Yes, yesterday morning I had the privilege of joining with the Newark Optimist Club as they celebrated Law Enforcement Week and celebrated Officers of the Year from the Newark, Fremont, and Union City Police Departments. Newark Police Officer of the Year this year was Alexandria Riddles, a very impressive officer, and as we've seen this evening, from a very impressive department. So I was proud to be able to speak there, and glad to celebrate Officer Riddles.
Thank you. Councilmember Freitas.
Yeah, thank you. Since we approaching Mother's Day this Sunday, so I'd like to wish every mother a happy and safe holiday. Happy Mother's Day to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to welcome Officer Torres and our new crime analysis, Mr. Wong, to the team. That's exciting. I know the crime analyst position has been something we wanted to fill for a while, and I believe I heard during his introduction that he was also a drone hobbyist, so maybe we can get him to do some double duty there on some of our drones. Real quick, we are having a big pancake breakfast this weekend. The Alameda County firefighters will be coming out to the Newark Junior High and helping us do a fundraiser Saturday morning starting at 8:30. So feel free to join us at the junior high. It's going to be a good time. The firefighters always cook great pancakes, and there will be bacon. So can't go wrong with that.
What time will that be at?
What was that?
What time will that be at?
8:30 a.m. at the Newark Junior High. And then, let me see here. My notes got a little messy, I guess. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and especially my wife.
That doesn't take away the requirement that you provide flowers and other, items for your wife. So, you're not getting off that easy. I echo Councilmember Bucci's comments about the Newark Junior High pancake breakfast this weekend. And if I know our firefighters, if I recall correctly, I think it's all you can eat. So show up, be hungry, and you will be fed well. I want to take a moment to wish our colleague, Vice Mayor Collazo, speedy recovery. She's not feeling well, hasn't been feeling well for some time. She's a real asset to this community, and we miss her here at the dais. And not wanting to miss the opportunity, as she would remind us, let's make sure we shop Newark. That's it for this night's agenda. Thank you to the Police Department for an outstanding presentation. We appreciate it. And thank you to all public safety officers and our building inspectors and our fire department for providing a safe community for our residents. Your efforts are appreciated.